Have you ever found yourself in the middle of a conflict or completely alone in your thoughts, desperately wishing that you carried a voice recorder everywhere that you went? Did you find yourself writing down the exact dates, times, and details of conversations the second that they end? And not because you are super organized, but because you are terrified that you're losing your mind? When you have experienced prolonged emotional manipulation from a highly critical partner or an unpleasable parent, the single greatest casualty isn't your happiness in general, it's your memory. Gaslighting operates by systematically destabilizing your trust in your own perception until you are entirely dependent on the abuser to tell you what's real and what's not real. And over time, you begin to experience chronic self-doubt, second-guessing your reactions, and wondering if you're really just rewriting history or you're being too sensitive. If you are tired of living in a mental fog where you're constantly questioning your own sanity, I need you to know something right now. Your brain has simply been trained to deprioritize its own perspective as a tactical survival response to keep the peace in your relationship. Today, we're going to stop trying to convince the person who distorted your reality to admit the truth. Instead, we're going to take another strategy. We're going to look at the exact behavioral frameworks needed to rebuild unshakable trust in your own eyes, starting right now. So, to regain trust in your memory, you first need to learn how to strip the emotional manipulation away from the actual historical events, okay? A toxic dynamic relies heavily on what we call emotional rewiring. Emotional rewriting. This occurs when someone takes a factual event and completely changes the narrative based on what they want, their current emotional states, telling that they'll tell you, I never said that, or you're remembering that completely out of context just to make me look bad. When your brain tries to process all this, it gets trapped in this ridiculous loop of exhaustion because it's trying to argue against a moving target. In order to stop this, we implement the timeline de-escalation protocol. The moment a conversation ends, or the moment a historical doubt enters your mind, you must record it, put it down somewhere using 0 emotional adjectives, okay? Don't write down that they were so incredibly mean and cruel to me. Don't judge it. We're going to write this objectively. So that's going to leave room for your brain to wonder later, well, maybe they were just tired, or maybe I provoked it. No. We're not judging it. Write it down objectively, like a mechanical sequence of events. At 4 o'clock, I asked about the financial budget. At 4:02, the other person stated that they refused to discuss it and walked out of the house. If you record the events of what actually happened strictly through a chronological, action-oriented lens, you're going to create a tangible anchor for your mind. When the abuser attempts to tell you 3 days later that, oh, well, you screamed and attacked me, you don't have to guess or doubt your own sanity. You can look at your de-escalated timeline and see the quiet, real truth, what really happened. So you're training your brain to rely on data, objective data, over the emotional noise and manipulation that they're trying to instill in you. The second critical step to reclaiming your self-trust is to recognize and break the reassurance trap. In short, you need to stop looking for reassurance, because when you're trained to believe that your perspective and your view on things is wrong, it's flawed, you develop a habit that you're seeking validation from the outside before you make any kind of a decision or validate your own memory. So you can text 3 different friends and ask, am I crazy for feeling upset about this? Or you ask your coworkers to review something that was perfectly normal, an email that you're trying to send multiple times because you're terrified that you yourself have misread the tone. You're doubting yourself. But by doing those things, you may be lowering your anxiety in the short term, But behaviorally, it's actually destroying your self-confidence and your trust in yourself. So every single time that you start asking somebody else, right, from the outside to confirm what you really already know, you're sending a powerful subconscious signal to your brain. And you're telling it that my eyes and myself and my judgment is insufficient. I need external permission from other people to validate my own reality. To stop this, you need to start practicing micro, teeny commitments to your own perception. So the next time that you know something happened, you know an event occurred, or the next time that you feel a boundary has been crossed, consciously forbid yourself from asking somebody else their opinion for at least 24 hours, okay? Sit with the discomfort of your own certainty. Let your brain experience the reality of holding its own perspective without needing anybody else to vote on whether you're allowed to be right, whether you're allowed to think of yourself as sane. Trust yourself, and it's not a feeling that you wait for. Self-trust is a behavioral thing that you do, a muscle that you build. The third operational shift that we're going to make is moving away from this diagnostic obsession. When people enter the recovery phase after surviving any kind of emotional abuse, they often spend months or even years researching clinical terms, okay? They watch thousands of videos, they analyze traits, decode manipulation tactics, and try to perfectly categorize the abuser's psychology. But everybody's different, and there are nuances with people. You know, when we think that we can just gather enough evidence and then we can definitely prove that the other person was wrong, then your self-doubt is going to disappear. But the truth is that you can't heal your own sense of identity and build or rebuild your self-trust by remaining hyper-focused on the person that damaged it. The abuser and yourself need to be separated in your mind. So this endless studying of the mechanics of manipulation will keep you focused and locked on their behavior, their choices, their actions, and it keeps them at the center of your daily thoughts. And that's where you get stuck, and it holds you back from moving on and rebuilding your life. True empowerment is going to come when you step away from this research and turn inwards. Your recovery does not depend on getting an abuser to admit that they wronged you, that they gaslit you, that they manipulated you. You don't need a perfect psychological diagnosis. You will recover when you are willing to look at your own daily patterns, rewrite your own scripts and beliefs about yourself, and build a lifestyle that's rooted in your personal values and unshakable self-respect and self-compassion. So learning to step away from this reassurance trap is really important. Anchor yourself in the objective data. Build your own sanity. But completely deleting years of deep-seated self-doubt and learning how to navigate the complex triggers of daily life that you're going to inevitably encounter, you have to have a dedicated, clear structure, a space where you can actively measure your progress with professional, objective tracking. So that's why I recommend utilizing the clinical tools over at onlinetherapy.com instead of traditional talk therapy models that keep you trapped in like this diagnostic loop and spending every session retelling old stories and focusing on the abuser's behavior again and again and again. Focus on rebuilding yourself and your own life. Head down to the description, explore our community tools on ask.io, and let's start reclaiming your clarity and your life today. Because remember, you deserve better, much better. Not one more day.